Before the foundations of the earth were laid, before time itself began its march, a war tore through the absolute silence of heaven, a rebellion of blinding pride against the unapproachable light of God. We often look at this cosmic clash as an ancient myth, a dramatic story confined to the stained glass windows of old cathedrals and fading scriptures. But what if I told you that this same ancient war is not over? What if it is raging right now, not in the distant clouds, but at the very threshold of your front door? Every night, you lock your doors, you secure your windows, you invest in alarms to protect your family from threats of flesh and blood. But what about the enemies you cannot see? The sudden, bitter arguments that erupt out of nowhere and shatter the peace of your evening. The heavy, suffocating anxiety that mysteriously settles over your living room. The inexplicable shadows of depression, doubt, and fear that slowly steal the joy from your home. You have felt it, haven't you? The sudden heavy shift in the atmosphere. These are not merely bad days or psychological phases. These are not just coincidences. They are the collateral damage of an invisible war. Your home, your sacred sanctuary, has become a spiritual battleground. When Lucifer, the most brilliant of all angels, declared his rebellion with the arrogant words, "I will not serve," he believed his darkness was unstoppable. He believed he could overthrow the divine order and drag humanity into eternal unrest. But from the humble ranks of the faithful spirits, one warrior stepped forward. He did not boast of his own immense strength. He carried no arrogance. He simply drew a flaming sword and uttered a battle cry so powerful it shattered the rebellion and echoed through eternity. Quis ut Deus? Who is like God? His name is Michael, the Archangel, the supreme commander of the heavenly hosts, the prince of the seraphim. Today, April 28th, you have not stumbled upon this moment by accident. You have felt the spiritual weight pressing down on your shoulders. You have seen the invisible cracks forming in the foundation of your family's peace. The enemy wants you to believe that you are completely defenseless. The whispers in the dark tell you that the anxiety, the discord, and the spiritual heaviness in your house are permanent fixtures. They want you to accept defeat and surrender your peace. But what if those whispers are a lie? What if right here and right now, you have access to the most formidable warrior in the history of the cosmos? Saint Michael is not a distant, passive figure trapped in history. He is a present, active, and terrifying force to the powers of darkness. He is the ultimate shield, and today, he is waiting for your invitation to draw his sword and stand guard at the threshold of your home. The greatest trick of the ancient enemy is not just convincing the world he doesn't exist, but convincing you that his attacks are simply normal life. We often imagine spiritual warfare as something dramatic, a terrifying spectacle with roaring winds and shaking walls. But the reality of evil is far more insidious and far more dangerous. It is terrifyingly subtle. It does not announce its arrival with a trumpet. It slips into your home like a cold, silent draft under a locked door. It disguises itself. It starts as a minor misunderstanding between a husband and wife that mysteriously festers into weeks of bitter silence. It manifests as a sudden, inexplicable anger and rebellion in your children or grandchildren, pulling them away from the values you so lovingly taught them. It is that heavy, suffocating blanket of exhaustion that falls over you the exact moment you kneel to pray. It is the whispering, relentless voice at 3 a.m. telling you that you are a failure, that your family is irreparably broken, that your health will fail you, and that tomorrow will only bring more sorrow. You have felt this, haven't you? You have walked into a room in your own house and felt a heavy, oppressive atmosphere. You have asked yourself, Where did this sudden tension come from? Why does my home feel so heavy today? I want to validate that feeling for you right now. You are not imagining it. You are not losing your mind, and it is not just the stress of getting older. You are sensing a spiritual breach. This is exactly how the ancient serpent operates. Knowing he cannot directly strike the throne of God, he attacks God's masterpiece on earth, the family. He seeks to dismantle your sanctuary piece by piece, turning a haven of peace into a house of invisible tension. But this is exactly where Saint Michael the Archangel draws the line. When you invoke the Prince of the Heavenly Host, you are not just saying a polite, routine prayer. You are issuing a spiritual declaration of war. You are calling down the supreme commander of the angelic armies to step directly into the breach of your living room. Saint Michael has witnessed every tactic, every lie, and every illusion of the enemy since the dawn of creation. The very demons who whisper despair into your mind tremble at the mere shadow of his wings. Saint Michael does not negotiate with the darkness in your home. He does not compromise with your anxiety. He casts it out with the absolute, blinding light of divine authority. But to let him fight for you, you must first understand the armor you are about to put on. You are tired. I know you are. You have been fighting this invisible war in the trenches of your own home for years, perhaps even decades. You have prayed through tears for the safety and salvation of your children and grandchildren. You have paced the floorboards in the dead of night, carrying the crushing weight of financial stress, physical ailments, and spiritual exhaustion. You have tried to be the unbreakable anchor for your family. But even the strongest anchors slowly rust when submerged in turbulent, toxic waters for too long. The ancient serpent wants you isolated. He wants you to believe that if you just worry a little more, if you just stress a little harder, if you just stay awake a few more hours, you can somehow fix it all. But human strength alone cannot defeat a supernatural enemy. When you try to fight the demons of division, illness, and despair with only your own bare hands, you will inevitably end up spiritually bruised, broken, and utterly depleted. But here is the turning point. Here is the glorious truth that the darkness is absolutely terrified you will discover today. You were never meant to fight this battle alone. Look at the traditional image of Saint Michael the Archangel. Look at the immense, blinding shield he carries. That shield was not forged in the fires of earth. It was forged in the absolute purity of heaven. It is impenetrable. It is designed to absorb the fiery darts of the enemy, the sudden, paralyzing panics, the overwhelming dread about the future, the irrational fears that grip your chest and extinguish them on contact. Today, April 28th, I am asking you to do something profound. I am asking you to hand over the spiritual keys of your home to the Prince of the Heavenly Host. Imagine right now Saint Michael standing at the front door of your house. Imagine the sheer, terrifying majesty of his presence. Where he steps, darkness cannot remain. It is a spiritual impossibility for shadows to exist in the presence of such blinding heavenly light. When you invoke his protection, you are doing more than just reciting a poem. You are authorizing him to draw his sword. That sword, gleaming with divine justice, is designed to sever the invisible chains that have bound your family. It cuts through the heavy, toxic atmosphere of resentment and unforgiveness that has lingered in your halls. Do not wait for the storm to get worse before you seek the shelter of his wings. The raven of procrastination constantly whispers, "Pray later, surrender this tomorrow." But just as the martyrs knew, there is no tomorrow in spiritual warfare. There is only Hodi, today. The shield is ready. The commander is waiting. Are you ready to let him step into your home? Have you ever stopped to look deeply into the mirror on a quiet morning? You see the new, deepening wrinkles etched into your forehead. You feel an unexplainable, bone-deep exhaustion that even a full night of sleep cannot cure. You notice that sudden tightness in your chest, that shortness of breath when the weight of the day's worries hits you. Society tells you it is just the relentless march of time. They say it is just a normal, unavoidable part of getting older. But what if that is completely wrong? What if those deep lines on your face are not just signs of age, but a physical map of the invisible, spiritual battles you have been fighting for your family? When your home is under spiritual siege, it does not just affect your mood. It viciously attacks your very body. The constant, gnawing worry over your children's choices, the sudden financial despairs, the bitter misunderstandings that echo in your kitchen, it all accumulates. Just as unseen plaque silently builds up and chokes the physical arteries of your heart, spiritual debris, fear, anger, unforgiveness, and the relentless whispers of the ancient enemy builds up and blocks the spiritual arteries of peace in your home. It creates a suffocating, toxic atmosphere. You feel it physically as a heavy burden on your shoulders, a literal ache in your bones. You have been trying to medicate a spiritual wound with worldly solutions. But worldly comforts, logical plans, and late-night worrying are like a little life raft in a violent hurricane. They might keep you breathing for one more hour, but they cannot command the storm to stop. You need a supernatural intervention. You need the commander of the heavenly host. This is exactly how Saint Michael the Archangel operates. When you invite him in, he does not merely stand passively at your front door. He marches through the very halls of your house. His presence acts as a divine cleansing fire. He shatters the invisible blockages. He purges the toxic, stagnant air of anxiety that has clogged the spiritual circulation of your sanctuary. He drives out the shadows of illness and the heavy, suffocating spirits of depression that have tried to make a permanent home in your living room. Today, you do not have to carry this crushing weight alone. You are about to let him clear the atmosphere of your home. Have you noticed exactly when the attacks are the most brutal? It is rarely in the chaotic light of day when you are distracted by errands, conversations, and the noise of the world. The true ambush always happens in the dead of night, when the house is finally silent and you are left completely alone in the dark with your thoughts. The clock strikes 2 a.m., then 3 a.m., and suddenly, your mind becomes a terrifying prison of what-ifs. What if my children make a mistake they can never recover from? What if this sudden financial crisis completely breaks us? What if my failing health finally gives out, and I become the one thing I dread most, a helpless burden to the people I love? You lie there, staring at the ceiling, feeling a cold knot in your stomach, your heart racing against an invisible threat. You try to put on a brave face during the day, maintaining your pride and showing everyone that you are strong. But at night, the facade crumbles. I want to reveal a profound truth to you right now. This midnight terror is not just clinical insomnia. It is not just your brain overthinking. It is a highly calculated spiritual strike. The ancient serpent knows that a shepherd who is deprived of peace and rest cannot protect the flock. By exhausting your mind with hypothetical disasters, he deliberately weakens the spiritual defenses of your entire home. He wants you to believe that you are failing, that your prayers are bouncing off the ceiling, and that the darkness is quietly winning the war for your family. But this is the exact moment you must deploy heaven's ultimate weapon. You have learned about the impenetrable shield of Saint Michael, but now you must understand the terrifying power of his sword. The Archangel's flaming sword is not merely a decorative symbol in an ancient painting. It is an active, divine force of liberation. When you call upon him in your darkest, most desperate hours, that blinding blade cuts through the suffocating web of nighttime anxiety. More importantly, it severs the invisible cords of generational trauma, those inherited patterns of anger, division, addiction, and unspoken resentment that have silently plagued your family tree for decades. The enemy has used these invisible chains to drag your loved ones down, making you feel entirely powerless. But St. Michael's strike is absolute. You are not a helpless victim waiting anxiously for the morning light. As the elder, the parent, the grandparent, you are the spiritual gatekeeper of your sanctuary. You have the God-given authority to say, "No more." By invoking the commander of the heavenly host, you instantly transform your bedroom from a chamber of anxiety into an impenetrable fortress. The entities that orchestrate your midnight fears cannot withstand the blinding, searing light of Saint Michael. They do not flee because of your human endurance. They flee because of the divine wrath you have summoned against them. Today, the unseen battle turns in your favor. The long night is finally over. The sun is beginning to break through the darkness, casting its first golden rays through your windows. But spiritual victory is not simply about surviving the night. It is about actively reclaiming your territory in the light of day. For far too long, you have lived defensively. You have simply braced yourself for the next family argument, the next unexpected bill, or the next wave of debilitating health anxiety. You have allowed the unseen enemy to treat your home like a public walkway, wandering through the hallways of your mind and leaving behind a heavy trail of toxic stress. But today, April 28th, that passive endurance ends forever. With Saint Michael the Archangel standing by your side, you are no longer just surviving. You are taking back what rightfully belongs to your family. Look around your living room, your kitchen, the spaces where your loved ones gather. These walls have absorbed decades of beautiful memories, but they have also absorbed the bitter echoes of past regrets, unspoken resentments, and heavy sorrows. The enemy relies on these lingering shadows to keep you trapped in a cycle of worry. But when you consecrate your home to the protection of Saint Michael, you are effectively handing a spiritual eviction notice to every entity of despair. Imagine his blinding presence standing at the very center of your home. The light radiating from his heavenly armor is not just protective, it is actively displacing the darkness. Where there was a suffocating fog of confusion, there is now the crystal-clear air of divine peace. Where there was the sharp sting of family division, there is now a supernatural hedge of protection that nothing unholy can penetrate. You are the appointed spiritual guardian of this sanctuary. When you wake up this morning, do not let the loud, chaotic worries of the world immediately hijack your mind. Step into your God-given authority. Walk to your front door, place your hand upon the wood, and visualize the flaming sword of the Archangel, barring any evil from crossing that threshold. You are setting a divine perimeter. The spirits of sickness, financial ruin, and marital discord cannot operate in an atmosphere that is saturated with heavenly authority. They suffocate in the presence of true faith. Today, you are not just hoping for a peaceful day. You are spiritually enforcing it. You are locking the gates of your mind and the doors of your house behind the impenetrable shield of heaven's supreme commander. Your home is no longer a vulnerable battlefield. Today, it becomes an unshakable fortress. Have you ever wondered why certain patterns of suffering seem to violently repeat themselves from one generation to the next? Stop for a moment and look deeply into the history of your own family. Perhaps you have witnessed the exact same explosive anger, that tore apart a previous generation's marriage, now silently eating away at your children's relationships. Maybe it is the heavy, suffocating shadow of financial ruin, a strange curse of scarcity that clings to your bloodline no matter how relentlessly everyone works. Or perhaps it is a lingering weakness, a sudden addiction, or a deep, unexplained sorrow that feels like a toxic inheritance no one ever asked to receive. The secular world has sterile names for these phenomena. They call it psychological inheritance, conditioned behavior, social circumstances, or simply bad luck. But as the appointed spiritual gatekeeper of your home, you must look past the physical symptoms and recognize the terrifying spiritual root. The invisible enemy does not merely plan his attacks for a single day or a single month. He orchestrates his destruction across generations. He patiently weaves invisible webs of bitterness, fear, and unspoken trauma through the timeline of your family tree. His ultimate goal is to make you despair, to convince you to accept these generational curses as an unchangeable fate. He desperately wants you to believe that you are powerless against history and that your home will always carry this invisible, bleeding wound. But today, April 28th, that cruel deception comes to a sudden and absolute end. You are not just seeking a few hours of temporary peace for today. You are standing up to hold the torch of liberation for your entire bloodline. When you invite Saint Michael the Archangel into your home, you are summoning a divine power that shatters the boundaries of time and physical limits. Close your eyes right now and visualize the sheer majesty of that flaming sword in Saint Michael's hand. That weapon is not just designed to clear the heavy atmosphere in your living room today. It is the sword of divine justice, capable of completely severing the toxic, deep-seated roots that were planted in your family decades ago. He marches directly into the darkest corners of your family's past, into the wounds that were never healed, the betrayals that were never forgiven, and the harsh judgments that were never spoken aloud. The blinding light of his heavenly shield purifies every ounce of inherited bitterness and paralyzing fear that has been silently manipulating your mind. You were specifically chosen by God to stand at this spiritual outpost. Do not ever surrender to the demonic whisper that says, "This is just the way things are." No. Under the absolute protection of the commander of the heavenly host, those generational patterns of trauma stop right here. Your children and your grandchildren will not have to inherit this suffocating anxiety, this bitter division, or this unexplainable darkness for one more second. The flaming sword has been swung. The invisible burdens have been cut forever. In this very moment, your home is officially entering a completely new era of absolute protection, ultimate freedom, and abundant heavenly peace. There is absolutely no force of darkness that can ever cross the divine boundary Saint Michael has established today. Imagine for a moment walking through your own front door and experiencing something you haven't felt in years. Instead of the familiar invisible wall of tension hitting you in the chest, you are greeted by an overwhelming, profound stillness. You breathe in deeply, and for the first time in as long as you can remember, the air feels completely light. The heavy, suffocating weight of anxiety that usually sits across your shoulders simply evaporates. You look into the kitchen, into the living room, into the very spaces where bitter arguments and silent resentments used to echo, and you feel nothing but divine tranquility. This is not a distant, impossible fantasy. This is not wishful thinking. This is the exact reality that God desires for your family, and it is the exact environment that Saint Michael the Archangel is deployed to enforce. The ancient enemy wants your home to be an unprotected train station, a chaotic place where spirits of anger, exhaustion, financial panic, and illness freely come and go, leaving their toxic, heavy footprints across your peace of mind. He wants you to believe that home is simply a place where you manage daily crises and barely survive until the next day begins. But heaven has a radically different definition of your territory. In the eyes of God, your home is meant to be a sacred sanctuary. It is meant to be a fortified outpost of heaven on earth, a place where you and your loved ones can retreat from a dark, demanding world to find absolute safety, physical healing, and spiritual renewal. When you deliberately entrust the spiritual perimeter of your house to the Prince of the heavenly host, a miraculous, tangible shift occurs in the atmosphere. The unseen demonic forces that thrive on your stress and feed on your exhaustion cannot survive in a consecrated space. They literally choke on the blinding presence of Saint Michael. His flaming sword acts as a divine filter at your doorways and your windows. Every time a spirit of sudden rage tries to enter, it is struck down at the threshold. Every time a whisper of financial despair or physical sickness tries to creep under the door, it is instantly incinerated by the light of heaven's champion. Today, you are no longer the exhausted victim of spiritual home invasions. You do not have to tiptoe around your own house, constantly bracing yourself for the next emotional explosion, the next piece of bad news, or the next wave of debilitating fear. By aligning your will with the commander of the angels, you are actively transforming your home from a vulnerable battlefield into an impenetrable fortress of divine rest. You are reclaiming your sanctuary, space by space, room by room. The preparation is complete. The shield is raised. Now, it is time to formalize this ultimate divine protection. It is time to speak the very words that will seal the doors of your home with the unbreakable authority of heaven. As you prepare to speak the final words of consecration today, you must do something that is incredibly difficult for any fiercely loving parent or grandparent. You must completely surrender your illusion of control. For so long you have believed that if you just held on tightly enough, if you just worried enough, if you just planned for every possible disaster, you could physically shield your family from the harshness of this world. But human hands, no matter how calloused from hard work and deep love, cannot hold back a spiritual tide. That sharp, persistent anxiety you feel in your chest is the exhausting result of trying to do a heavenly commander's job. Saint Michael does not ask for your physical strength. He asks for your absolute, unwavering surrender. He is the ultimate, undefeated defender of heaven, but he will not force his way past your pride. You must willingly lower your own fragile, human shield so that he can raise his indestructible, divine one over your roof. Think of the ancient raven that tempted the martyrs with the whisper of cross, tomorrow. The unseen enemy uses that exact same raven in your living room today. He whispers, "Wait until the children are older. Wait until the bank account is completely stable. Wait until the family arguments finally stop, and then you can have spiritual peace." He desperately wants you to postpone your spiritual victory indefinitely. He wants you waiting for a perfect moment that will never arrive. But just as the martyrs knew, Saint Michael's flaming sword only operates in the eternal Hodi, today. There is no perfect time to invite divine protection. The perfect time is this exact moment, right in the middle of the messy, chaotic, and unresolved reality of your current life. It absolutely does not matter if there are unpaid bills stacked on the kitchen counter, medical reports you are afraid to open, or unspoken tension lingering in the hallway. Heaven does not require a flawless, stress-free house. Heaven only requires a willing, trusting heart. Right now, I want you to mentally gather every single burden you have been desperately carrying. Gather the paralyzing fear of illness, the sudden dread of financial ruin, the deep, silent sorrow over a child who has walked away from their faith, and the heavy exhaustion of just trying to survive each day. Picture all of it as a massive, dark, physical weight in your hands. You were never meant to carry this weight alone. When you prepare to pray today, you are not just asking for a small favor. You are actively, formally handing this crushing weight over to the Prince of the heavenly host. You are stepping backward into the absolute safety of his shadow. You are letting him step forward to face the terrifying enemies that you cannot see. The invisible battle for your sanctuary is no longer yours to fight. It belongs to the Lord, and his supreme commander has already drawn his sword. Now, as the morning light fully illuminates your room, the time for preparation is over. The time for spiritual action is here. I invite you to take a deep breath, close your eyes, and bow your head. You do not need to search for the perfect vocabulary. Heaven already knows the deepest, unspoken groans of your weary heart. Let my voice become your voice. Let this prayer become the unbreakable, divine seal over your home today. Lord God Almighty, Creator of the seen and the unseen, today I come before you not as a defeated victim, but as the appointed spiritual guardian of my family. I humbly ask you to dispatch Saint Michael the Archangel to my home this very moment. Saint Michael, Supreme Prince of the heavenly host, I officially open the doors of my sanctuary to your blinding light. Defend my family in this daily battle. Be our impenetrable shield against the wickedness, the silent traps, and the heavy, paralyzing anxieties orchestrated by the devil. May God rebuke the darkness that has tried to steal my peace. I humbly and desperately pray. And do thou, O glorious Commander, by the absolute power of God, cast into hell every evil spirit, every demon of division, generational trauma, sickness, and financial despair that prowls around my home seeking the ruin of my loved ones. As this ancient prayer echoes in the stillness of your room, I want you to truly visualize it. See the Archangel striking his flaming sword into the floorboards at your front door. A massive shockwave of pure, divine light sweeps through your hallways, floods into the bedrooms, and purifies the kitchen. Every lingering shadow is violently expelled. Every heavy, suffocating spirit is banished into the abyss. Your home is now spiritually sealed. The invisible breach is permanently closed. From this day forward, when the ancient raven of fear tries to croak tomorrow at your window in the middle of the night, you will not panic. You will not lose sleep. You will simply smile in the dark and point to the threshold where the commander of the angels stands an eternal, unsleeping guard. If you truly believe in this absolute divine protection, if you are finally ready to claim this profound peace for your family today, I want you to declare it boldly. Type Amen in the comments below. Let this simple word be your physical signature of faith, a public declaration to the darkness that your sanctuary belongs entirely to God. And if you know a friend or a family member whose own home is currently under severe spiritual attack, someone who is suffocating under the weight of anxiety, share this video with them right now. Send them the shield of the Archangel. Rest now, faithful guardian. Breathe in the clean, peaceful air of your newly reclaimed sanctuary. The battle is the Lord's, and your home is safe. May God bless you. May He infinitely bless your family. And may Saint Michael stand guard at your doors until the end of days. Amen.